Jim's component that he's going to speak to about how we work with a patient to build their confidence as a team. And it's not so much working, and I'll steal Jim's thunder, not working on people, working with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Jack nailed it. The key here is no pain. And that kinesiophobia, that fear of movement because of pain. And as good Canadians, we're going to have to talk about Ron 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐥 right now. And 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐥, from way back in the 60s, back in MIT with Patrick Wall, kind of made the gate theory of pain, or came to that conclusion. So 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐥 was a neuropain psychologist and probably one of the founders of what we would call pain science. So now if we fast forward to the 90s, 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐥 introduced what he calls the neuromatrix. And the neuromatrix is just a pain perception theory. Everything's just a theory, but it's really interesting. So you've got this central nervous system we like to call the washing machine, and we have these inputs coming into it and these outputs leaving it. And pain's a really interesting thing. So you've got these inputs of, you know, past life, past history, the cognitive part of what the heck's going on, what's the meaning of this pain. You've got the sensory input of all the afferents from your, you know, external body, your visceral system, all coming into your CNS. And you've got this affective part, the limbic system, the background neuroimmunochemical soup that just homeostatically drives us as human beings. And all that comes in, and what comes out is pain perception, an action program, how I move, and just the level, the stress hormone level of how much cortisol versus how much dopamine, oxytocin. So it's really interesting. So we get people in pain, they're scared to move, and if the therapy produces more pain, which sometimes it does, not Mulligan, sometimes it does, it really changes then that pain perception and that action program, right? I'm going to limp more, I'm going to guard more. But when we can do a technique, and here's the interesting thing, it all stems on how we communicate too. So part of this concept is all the narrative, right? The no pain narrative, the, you know, no fear, no damage narrative. But the interesting thing is the afferent inputs. So where traditionally manual therapy, like Jack talked about with Maitland, might just be mobilizing and stimulating mechanoreceptors, type 1, 2, and 3, and manipulation might get type 4, right? Or basically, or type 3, if Jack will fix me on that one. And if we're just doing muscle work, you might just be stimulating the nervous system via the Golgi tendon organs or the muscle spindles. The biggest organ in the human body is the skin. Maybe through massage or some type of needling, you're stimulating Ruffini endings and somehow tapping into the nervous system. And what's really interesting, now we've got a way with the Mulligan concept to combine those. I can affect mechanoreceptors at the same time as Golgi tendon organs and muscle spindles because I can mobilize and move. And it's really interesting. Throw in the skin, which we underestimate how much is going on there, and 1 + 1 + 1 is 10. And that's where neurophysiologically we see these changes so quickly that sometimes can't be explained by mechanics alone. And that's where the research comes in at the ankle, at the shoulder, tends to be really biomechanical, at the hip, at the elbow, tends to be really neurophysiological. So that's where the research has been great. But yeah, you can kind of, without causing pain, with the right kind of inputs, the right kind of symptom modification, you can really change somebody's ability to move with no pain. And think what that does cognitively. Think of that to the buy-in. Am I going to listen to the therapist and do my homework? Absolutely right, because I'm a live walking example right now of what used to hurt doesn't, and my movement's better. So I'd like to think in the right situation, we just get there quicker with Mulligan over less visits. And I'm biased, I admit that, but the neuromatrix to me is a nice pain model that really kind of makes sense of where this manual therapy meets pain science.